Tonight I'm going to do something I haven't done in a long time. I'm going to pack up all my stuff and I'm going to head out to darker skies. I'm going to go over to Walt's house, aka Delta Astrophotography, and set up multiple rigs and see if we can't take advantage of this clear night. So I intended to shoot some video at Walt's house that night, and the only thing I got was that time lapse shot of us setting up our gear. I ended up running 3 mounts that night. I ran my EQ6 with my medium-sized ED102 and a new camera, and then I ran the GTI with the William Optics Nightcat, and then I ran this Skyguider Pro with this setup right here, the Canon T5i modified and the Nifty 50. So I was just going to show everything I used here and just do a little walkthrough of how I set up. So I used the Ioptron Skyguider Pro. This was my first tracking mount that I ever bought shortly after I got my first DSLR. And I no longer use the base that came with it because it's pretty much garbage. And I'm missing a screw. I don't know where that screw is. I guess this one works, but I haven't used it. I upgraded to the William Optics base, and it is so much better. A little on the pricey side, at above $200. I think it's like $230, but worth the upgrade because polar alignment is so much better, and it doesn't come out of polar alignment as easy as with this plastic base here. So I should toss that, but I'm going to hang on to it just in case. So I have this little dovetail bar from Astromania, and I just use it, and I just screw it into the bottom of the camera. You're probably going to hear some fireworks in this video because it's New Year's Day, and the fireworks are going off like crazy. So I get that on there tight, and then I just take a flathead screwdriver and tighten that down. And I use this intervalometer, the high modified Canon T5i with the Nifty 50, and this mounting bracket with the dovetail saddle. And so I'm going to set all this stuff up. There's some clouds rolling in. I'm going to see if I can get Orion in the frame and at least go through that process. But I did this, my front yard's a Bortle 5, /6, and over at Walt's it's pretty dark. It's like a 3/4. He lives outside of town, so and I've got street lights everywhere down the street, and he didn't really have any street lights close to where we set up. Hopefully, we'll get to go over there again soon when it's clear on the weekend and our schedules can line up. So yeah, let's get to setting this stuff up outside. So it looks like the weatherman was wrong. These clouds weren't supposed to roll in until about 7, and it's already cloudy. But I'm gonna go ahead and maybe get through this process. And if you hear the banging and stuff, it's New Year's Day, and everybody's still shooting fireworks. So one of the reasons I like this tripod so much is because it's so tall, and I don't have to like get on my knees to polar align. I could just kind of get down a little bit and do the polar alignment. So the first thing I want to do is install this William Optics base onto the tripod. Make sure that's tight. And roughly facing Polaris. If the clouds ever break, I can see it. Okay, those church bells are going off like crazy still. It should be wrapping up in a minute. I'm going to turn my headlamp on so I can see this bubble. Okay, it's on the right corner over here. And I'm going to adjust this leg. And this one needs to come down just a bit. That's pretty level right there. Okay. The next step, I'm going to slide the Skyguider into the William Optics base and tighten it down. Then I'm going to take the dust plug out, set it in the tray, and I'm going to install the mounting bracket. Got my camera and the 50 mil, I cannot say that word, millimeter, 50 millimeter lens. I'm going to slide it on, tighten that down, and I'm going to go ahead and connect the intervalometer. Man, they are grooving on that organ. That's connected, and I'm going to just attach it right here. All right. Now I'll just wait and see if we can get a break in the cloud so I can polar align. I guess those church organs are just not going to stop tonight. They're rocking it. I'm going to go ahead and balance this thing since I've got it on here. I'm going to loosen the clutch for the right ascension and adjust this counterweight. Get it balanced. And I know that Orion's going to be coming up over here, so I'm going to loosen these deck screws and just tilt that and make sure it's kind of balanced. Now, it's hard to get that to move with such a light setup, but I think that's going to be good enough. It's kind of centered there. Make sure I tighten those back down. I'm going to go ahead and aim that direction because I know Orion is going to be over here in this general direction, right over here. So now that I've got that, I can rebalance it because it seems like it's off just a little bit since I moved it. So that weight needs to come in towards the camera just a little bit. Yep. And I'm going to tighten the clutch back down. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the camera on. And I took the polar scopes off, and I'm going to go ahead and take the lens cap off. I'm going to stick that in my pocket. So I can see Mars through the clouds, and I may try to just line up on that and just go through a focus. So I'm going to cut the mount on, and I'm going to loosen the clutch, and that's not good. I always get that. It's the wrong screw. Okay. I'm going to go into live view, and I can see the moon and Mars here. I'm going to see if I can hold the camera and do this at the same time. So I've got Mars in frame right here, and you can see the clouds. But I'm going to do a focus, and you want to make sure that your focus is in manual instead of automatic. So I've got that flipped to manual, and then just going to turn the focus until I can get that pinpoint. So that's getting bigger. That's bigger. And when you can see other faint little stars pop up, you know you're pretty close to focus. But those clouds are messing this up. So, okay, I'm going to try this again with the tripod, holding the camera. And I can see there that it's getting bigger. That's pretty tiny. And another thing you can do is zoom in with the little zoom button right here. And with the touch screen, I'm going to drag that box over Mars. And then I'm going to hit zoom again. And then I can do a fine focus here. You can see it gets bigger and it gets bigger that way. So it's going to be, the sweet spot is, looks like right there. I can see some stars here and here and here. And that looks like that's going to be pretty close to focus. Just want to make sure. Yep, that looks good right there. I'm going to call that focused. I'm going to cut the live view back off, and I'm going to loosen the clutch, bring it back up into its home position. And now I'm going to just go through a polar alignment routine. And the clouds are, now it's low clouds instead of high clouds, so it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to see Polaris. But I've got the other video explaining the reticle, and use this app, PS Align Pro, or there's several apps that are free just for polar aligning. And you just basically, you're going to try to match that little dot, which is Polaris, up on the reticle with your reticle. So with this William Optics base, you're going to loosen this right here. And then there's another one on the other side, and you can loosen that one. And now you can adjust your azimuth knobs here on the back. And your latitude knobs are on the front and the back. So when you're adjusting you're doing your polar alignment, I'm gonna look through here, and the reticle is not lit up. So on the Skyguider, I have to loosen the clutch, and I think it's on this side. I have to turn it, and then that reticle lights up right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock it in with 12 o'clock straight up on the clock. So you can see the reticle there. It's not it's hard to get in focus, but that's what you're going to polar align with. And it's a little clock. You're just going to match up Polaris on that clock with what it says on the app. So once you find Polaris in your field of view, and then you're going to adjust these knobs and line it up with the clock. And then you're going to adjust these to go up and down, and these to go left and right. And once you've got it polar aligned, you lock everything down on both sides, and then you're ready to frame up your target. So I know Orion rises over here, and I have my camera kind of facing that way. So now the critical part is not to knock this thing out of alignment once you have it aligned. So I'm going to loosen the clutch carefully, and I'm going to tilt this back, and I'm going to tighten it up, but I'm not going to tighten it all the way. I'm just going to barely tighten it. And then I'm going to adjust these two screws here and put it in live view and get Orion in the frame. So now I can loosen this clutch back up. I barely tightened it. I'm trying not to move the mount. And I think Orion's right over there. So I'm going to tighten those back down and then tighten the clutch back down. I'm going to turn live view off and go back to the settings. Now, I have it set in manual, the M, and in bulb mode on that. This is a touch screen, so you can just touch that and then adjust it. And what you'll do is you'll go past the longest setting, which is 30 seconds. There's 30, and then click it one more time. You're in bulb mode. Now you can use this intervalometer. And then I have the aperture set at f4.0 because that's the best setting with this lens if you're going to take long exposures. And then the ISO, I took 1600 is what I used, and I'm shooting in RAW and RAW only. And then what else? What else is there? I think that's it. That's your settings. I just use a daytime balance, and that keeps it instead of auto, and that just keeps it on one balance, one color balance, the white balance, and then I can fix that in post-processing. So now I'm ready to start my exposures. I've got Orion framed up, and I'm going to set it for a 3-second delay before my first shot, and then I'm going to do 1 minute long exposures, and then I have a 1-second interval between shots, and then my number, I was let's see, we're going to do 60, so that's an hour. I can check it every hour, make sure everything's okay. So 60 1-minute shots is an hour, and then what I'll do is once I'm ready to start shooting, I'll attach this intervalometer back to the tripod leg right there. because I have Velcro on the leg and Velcro on the back. And another thing is you make sure this is not tangled up in anything because you don't want it catching. And I'm going to actually set it on this side like that. Make sure that's sticking. All right, that's not going anywhere. And then when I'm ready to start my exposures, I would just hit the start button, and then I'll come back and check it after an hour. And now I want to talk about calibration frames. The first thing I'll do when I'm done taking my lights is I'll put my lens cap back on, and I'll set my intervalometer for the same settings. I won't touch any camera settings. They all need to be the same. And I'll take about 30 dark frames. So I'll change the number on here instead of 60, 30. So that'll take 30 minutes. And this is what I did the other night. I just did this while I was packing up my other gear. I went ahead and just took my dark frames while I was packing everything else up. Once my dark frames are finished, the next thing I usually do is I'll take my flats. Sometimes I'll take these first. I'm going to show you the settings I use with my camera, but I just have a little tracing tablet and this little power bank, this little portable battery, and I'll turn that on and hook these up and then hit the power button. And then what I'll do is I'll hold that right in front of the lens without trying to move it, because you don't want to move it out of focus. And you set your camera in AV mode, and I'm going to see if I can set this up to where you can see it. Okay, so you need to be in live view for this. So I'm going to flip it back to live view. All the settings are the same. I'm in AV mode now, and I'm going to hit info, and that's going to bring up the histogram. And you want that histogram like right in the middle somewhere. Sometimes it maybe to the left. So this tablet does dim. If I hold it down, it brightens and dims. So I'll try a dimmer setting. And that's just to the left, so that's a little bit better. And then what I'll do is I'll take about 20 to 30 of these flat frames. So I'll do that. Toop, 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 toop. And that's how I take my flats. So the last calibration frames you want to take are bias frames. And what I do is I turn the dial to TV, and then I set my exposure to the fastest possible exposure. With this camera, it's 4,000. Some will be 8, but I just make sure that is set to the fastest exposure. And then you want to put your lens cap back on, because these are akin to dark frames. And then I usually take about 40 to 50 of these. Some you can take more if you want, but that's usually enough. And then I'll just take those, and then I'm done with calibration frames. So yeah, you want to make sure that you leave your settings on your camera the same ISO, and then you want to take your darks kind of in the same temperature range. So that's sometimes I like to do those first right after I get through taking my lights. And then the flat frames, you don't want to change your focus. And the bias frames are, you could do those last. That's no big deal. Just put the lens cap back on and take about 40 to 50 of them, and then you're good. So yeah, that's basically how I set this rig up. I wish I could do a polar alignment, but I can't even see Polaris at all. There's too many clouds, and I don't think it's going to get any better. So yeah, that's how I set this mount up, and that's how I got these images of the Orion Constellation. So yeah, I'm going to do a video on processing that, and that'll be coming soon. Clear skies, everybody, but not tonight. Take it easy.